President Obama made a stop in North Carolina this week. His first tour to small business Apex, which is in the Triangle, and then he pushed his jobs plan in front of a packed crowd at NC State. As you see here, he pitched initiatives in the $447 billion plan that he says would give tax breaks to small businesses and allow them to hire more workers. The president says the bill would put 19,000 construction workers in North Carolina alone back on the job.
Governor Perdue can tell you there are a lot of roads and a lot of bridges that need fixing. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in schools and airports. All these things are in need of repair. In North Carolina alone, there are 153 structurally deficient bridges that need to be repaired.
To talk about his visit and the president's job plan, my first guests are Democratic Party Chair David Parker and Republican Party Vice Chair Wayne King. All right, David Parker, I want to start with you first. I guess just give your initial reaction to the president coming to North Carolina and the speech that he gave about his jobs plan.
Well, the president's definitely owned. He is focused on getting out into America and talking about what's important to Americans. You know, a Rose Garden strategy is very interesting, but you got to take it out to the hustings, and that's exactly what he did today. I thought that his energy was terrific. Of course, I believe in his message wholeheartedly. I'm thrilled with this president and very proud every time I see him do this kind of speech. My daughter is a student at State. She's a junior in education. She was in the crowd and just texted me to tell me what a great time they had and how much energy was there. So this is exciting stuff. It's great to have the president in North Carolina.
All right, Wayne King, you are the vice chair with the North Carolina GOP. I'm guessing you have a different take on the speech.
Well, absolutely. Chairman Parker says he, is glad for him to be in North Carolina, and we are too. It's 3 years too late to talk about the unemployment rate in North Carolina and double-digit unemployment, and Obama and Governor Perdue basically together today. They're in Raleigh, and it's amazing to me that it took 3 years, nearly 3 years, to talk about jobs and the economy when the economy has tanked in his presidency.
But you say 3 years too late, but is it time to talk about it now, though, and just get over that fact and move forward and try to get a plan done?
Well, it was time to talk about it whenever he began, and he made campaign promises in 2008 about bringing jobs to America. The place that he visited today is outsourcing jobs to Costa Rica. Back in June when he was here before, the company that he visited is outsourcing jobs to China. The Republican Party believes that small businesses, and we believe in Made in America. We believe that jobs are right down the street, small businesses. That's where the rubber meets the road, in our opinion, about jobs in the economy.
David, I want to give you a chance to respond to that, because there was talk about that and how the company that he went to in Apex was from Costa Rica, or they actually set up a plant in Costa Rica. So we want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Sure. Well, it's fluff. It's just a distraction to try to get people to ignore the fact that we need jobs. And the people that are not willing to pay their fair share of taxes are making more than $250,000 a year, or there are oil companies that are making these huge huge profits. GE made something, they're not an oil company, but they made something like $63 billion last year, and they paid no taxes at all. We've got to reform how we do taxation in this country and stop getting distracted by these personal attacks. What's important is job creation. What's important is a $1,300 per average worker tax cut from middle-class families right here in North Carolina. What's important is employing 13,000 teachers that the Republicans in the General Assembly fired, and President Obama wants to put them back into the classroom to educate these kids. We let those teachers go because the Republicans were unwilling to keep a 3/4 cent sales tax here in North Carolina so that tourists and people coming through this state could help us pay for our educators. It's just crazy. All these things about where a company has a 10,000 square foot facility is really irrelevant. It's fun to talk about, but that's not the story. The story is jobs. The story is 19,000 construction jobs, 13,000 teachers. The story is a $1,300 tax cut for middle-class folks. That's what the story is. It's not the fluff. That's a distraction.
A lot of Republicans believe the story is that these aren't new ideas and it's just another stimulus package. What do you think about that?
These are not new ideas, and those Republicans are absolutely right. Most of the ideas that are in this stimulus package are Republican ideas and Democratic ideas. This is a nonpartisan thing, and that's part of the deal with the stimulus package. You know, we tried the Republican way under the Bush administration, and we took all that money and we threw it at these big banks on Wall Street, and we threw it at the big oil companies, and none of it trickled down to we the people on the pavement. This jobs plan puts jobs on the pavement, takes the money to the street where it can be spent, whether it's being spent at Lowe's, which is a North Carolina company, or it's being spent at Family Dollar, which is a North Carolina company, or it's being spent in one of our small businesses that are mom and pop stores on Main Street in Concord or Kannapolis or Kinston. I mean, that's what these jobs are about. You put money into construction workers' hands, they're going to be spending it on the street, and that's where we need it.
All right, Wayne, let's go back to you for a minute and talk about, I guess, some of what David said, but also there are tax cuts in this plan, so at least part of this plan that Republicans will be willing to go along with?
Certainly, we believe in cutting taxes for Americans and North Carolinians, but you know, I call your attention to the Bloomberg magazine, which is a business magazine, that 62% of the people in America believe that Barack Obama has failed on the economy. It's amazing to me that, you know, the majority of the American citizens believe that he's failed on this. And we just heard today that the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce, just before us here, spoke and talked about that this is campaign rhetoric, and that the General Assembly, the Republicans in the North Carolina General Assembly, have done a great job about setting a climate for economic development and setting the stage for more jobs in this state. So we're on the right track. It's going to take a while to make sure that we have the jobs to compete, and we're setting the climate, and that's what Republicans are willing to do.
Is there middle ground here, Wayne, with this, with the plan and then what Republicans are doing? I mean, is there middle ground, or is there just not a place to get in the middle between these two parties right now?
Well, I think that job creation and economic development is certainly not a Democrat and Republican issue necessarily, but the president basically said this is an all or nothing plan, which is absurd. We need to look through the plan. We need to pull out the things that need to be voted on and need to be voted on soon. And, you know, it's just like I said just a few minutes ago, it's 3 years late on an economic development plan when unemployment has gone up and up and up. And I'm glad that he has decided that jobs and the economy are now on the forefront.
David, I'll ask you the same question. Do you feel there's middle ground here between what these two parties seem to be far apart on?
Yes, we've got to get to a point where just because an idea is a Democratic idea doesn't mean that it's bad. Just because an idea is a Republican idea doesn't make it bad. I mean, one of the problems that we've got in this country, and it's sort of an unspoken truth, is that when we draw these district lines for congressmen and for state house members and state senators in such an overtly partisan way, then folks that are in the middle, moderates, unaffiliated voters, really find themselves stymied. And it's a real problem. This Republican General Assembly has drawn the lines for Congress, for instance, in such a way that the Republicans would predict to get 10 out of our 13 seats, whereas in North Carolina, we vote about 50-50 for our congressman. Right now it's 7-6 in favor of the Democrats. This drawing of these lines, which is something that the reporters don't get a chance to talk about, has a tremendous impact on this ridiculous partisanship here. Well, it's just absolutely absurd. So yes, there's a middle ground, but we've got to get people that are moderates, that are willing to run, willing to get on shows like this, and talk about their beliefs. That's one of the reasons why during the segment today, right after the speech and before, Lou Ebert's comments with the North Carolina Chamber were good comments. It's a rational, moderate business approach, and I like to see that. We do need to get government out of the way where it is in the way, but we need for government to help create an environment where we can have capital growth. You know, right now it's just almost impossible to get a loan from the banks because they're just so doggone gun shy. And the reason they're gun shy is we're not getting enough money into the middle class. This country is all about the middle class. The Democratic Party's all about the middle class. So we got a lot of work to do, and we need to find that middle ground. I appreciate you asking that question.